And welcome back. So, Craig, what happened? First of all, let's talk about Bill Casey. Bill Casey, was he the point guy in this thing?
Wonderful, wonderful character. I describe him as sort of a mix between James Bond and Mr. Magoo. He was sort of he mumbled all the time. He spat when he talked. He had horrible table manners. He spilled food all over his tie when he ate. He was known to chew his tie when he got anxious. He was the guy everyone had to invite to state dinners, and everyone hoped he wouldn't show up. And in the end, he wanted to be Secretary of State under Reagan. And Nancy Reagan said, absolutely no way. I do not want him, the State Department being such a formal position. But he was a brilliant, brilliant spy, and he did things in a way where it was all compartmentalized, so no one knew everything that was going on. And he had been a terrific spy in World War II with the Office of Strategic Services, which was the precursor to the CIA. But after that, he was not visibly in the intelligence world. And I think one of my greatest discoveries in writing this book was putting together that he had a secret intelligence network on his own, even before the hostages were seized. And he was in touch with the top people in Israeli intelligence. He was in touch with South African gun runners. He had Republican operatives who were fixers and helped set up meetings for him in Madrid with some of the key Iranian people who had been negotiating against him in the October surprise. And he was an extraordinary figure. And he also thwarted many of the Carter administration's outreaches in terms of when they were trying to solve the hostage crisis.
Now, Barbara Honegger, in her book October Surprise, says that he had told his lawyer, Milton Gould, that he was going to fully testify about this, and that the day that he was supposed to testify, he had a seizure in his office in the CIA, was taken to Bethesda, and the part of his brain that controls speech was removed. Is that accurate?
Wow, I have not been able to verify that. He was, his congressional testimony is sort of comical, really, because he mumbles so much, and they'd ask him a question, and he'd say, And Ronald Reagan famously was asked about Casey and said, I can't understand a word he says. You can ask him to repeat himself once or twice, but you can't ask a third time. That's rude. So Reagan just nodded and smiled and seemed to go along with things.
But Casey was involved in working with the Iranians to hold the hostages.
Absolutely.
And wasn't Casey a campaign manager for Reagan?
Yes, and I mean, that's what's so extraordinary. If you can imagine running a presidential campaign, a winning one at that, that's a full-time job. That's 24/7, and you're in the media spotlight the whole time. But Casey managed to sneak away to Europe, to have dozens of meetings with arms dealers who were selling weapons to Iran, and he had his own cutouts, that is, intermediaries who would do his work for him.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff.